We are here and we are strong. Let's be counted as we move on. Make a difference, change lives as we tell our different stories. We are capable, beautiful. We are born to do great things. We're unstoppable, incredible, 'cause we're differently abled, differently.
Disability is a wide topic of discussion, and as days go by, we try our best to make the society be more friendly on issues concerning disability. While some disabilities are physical, others are unseen, and only the wearer of the shoe can attest the challenges they go through. That's why in our today's show, we are going to discuss about sickle cell diseases, mostly known as sickle cell anemia. Welcome to Able Differently. I'm Ruth Mweni.
'Cause we're differently abled, differently.
We have two amazing ladies, Foulata and Dr. Jessie, who interact more often with these people who have sickle cell. Take a look.
After my first son was diagnosed with sickle cell disease, it was a very traumatizing experience. Immediately, I was given that slip in the lab and told to take to the doctor. I don't like carrying what I don't know. So I opened the envelope to see what was there. And when I saw the SS, I suspected I was in trouble. And I sat outside Nairobi Hospital casualty. There's a stone there, and I wept for almost an hour. Nobody stopped to ask me what was wrong. And when I finished, I collected myself and went home, really devastated.
These are the experiences of caregivers and patients who have sickle cell disease. Foulata wishes she had an opportunity to be guided through on the choices of partner and also the children they will have. She was blessed with 3 children and 2 succumbed to sickle cell. It is her quest to help others with the same experience that led to the birth of a foundation.
For a period of time, I didn't really get to know anybody else I could talk to, apart from the doctor who told me about the disease. But you know, so much that you are afraid of even stops you from hearing what you're being told that may be positive. Anyway, I resolved to do the best, but unfortunately after 2.5 years, I lost that child. And when I was done mourning, I asked myself, how could I help other people not to go through what I have gone through alone? And I rounded off some friends and I said, I need us to start an organization.
So far, they are all over the country and have set up specific health facilities to help in sickle cell cases.
We have now branches all over the country. We decided to go to the counties where sickle cell is more prevalent, like Busia, Bungoma, Homa Bay, Kisii, Migori, Siaya, Mombasa, Kisii and Kuria. Yes. And then we also have a branch in MTRH in Eldoret.
Professor Jessie from the University of Nairobi helps us understand much about sickle cell.
Sickle cell disease is an inherited condition. That means that one is born with a disease, and this disease is due to an abnormality of the red blood cells. The red blood cells are the ones that carry oxygen in our body, and in fact when you cut yourself or when you see blood, it is red because of those red blood cells. Within those red blood cells there is hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is a compound the one that actually carries the oxygen. In sickle cell disease, the abnormality is found in the hemoglobin. It is abnormal. The normal hemoglobin is hemoglobin A, but in sickle cell disease, it is known as hemoglobin S. And because of this abnormality, the hemoglobin is unable to carry oxygen properly, and it causes the red cell to assume an abnormal shape. You will see how a normal red cell looks like, and you will see that in sickle cell, It looks like a banana. It has a banana shape.
A person with sickle cell disease experiences so much pain and swelling, as she explains.
Because of this abnormality, this sickle shape, when the blood is flowing, it tends to be very sticky. And especially in the small blood vessels, those are the capillaries, it causes the blood to stick in the capillaries, and it prevents the blood from flowing properly. And this then can cause pain and swelling and damage to organs such as the kidney, the liver, and can even affect the brain.
Sickle cell is described as a major killer since it causes damage to body organs.
Sickle cell disease presents from early childhood. We said a child is born with the disease. However, usually they start manifesting at about from 6 months of age, because when they're born with another protective kind of hemoglobin, which will prevent them from showing signs of the disease in their early childhood. So from about 6 months, the child will present with anemia, that is lack of blood. They will also present with swelling of the fingers and the toes. And this swelling is because the blood has blocked the small vessels in the fingers and the toes, causing them to be swollen and very painful. You'll find the child will be crying from a lot of pain. Sickle cell can present with the organs are affected. So the eyes may be affected, affecting the vision. The heart may be affected, the lungs, the kidneys, and all those, especially in the chronic stages, can affect the functioning of those organs. In fact, sickle cell is a major killer in children. And without the proper medication and the preventive care that is available today, 50 to 90% of children below 5 years of age may die due to sickle cell disease.
Diagnosis takes different processes that include family history.
The diagnosis is based on how the patient presents. The history is very important. It's important to know in that family whether there have been other patients who have had, or other people who have had sickle cell, going back to the family, the grandparents, uncles, aunts, because we see that sickle cell is inherited, so there are most likely you'll find some family history. We then go on to how the patient is, the symptoms they have, and the signs when we examine them, what we find. And then once we've done that, we also do tests. There are different tests which we can use to diagnose the disease, and these are done in the hospital. Some of them are used as screening so that they're not very definitive, and then there are definitive tests that we use to diagnose sickle cell disease.
People with sickle cell look normal when they are not experiencing the pain, which is caused by certain triggers.
There are triggers that can make it worse. Things like cold, things like pain, if they feel pain or if they're under emotional stress, even psychological stress or physiological stress if they have to run very far. Things like dehydration are very important, especially with children. They may be running around in the hot sun and forget to take enough fluid, and that dehydration will affect them. There are also other things like infection. If they get an infection, that can trigger off a pain crisis or one of the other crises that I mentioned. So cold, infections, extreme emotional or psychological stress, extreme exercise, dehydration, and that's why we always recommend sickle cell patients to carry fluids all the time so that they keep themselves well hydrated.
Biggest challenge in sickle cell awareness still remains stigma, as Foulata explains.
For mothers like me, let me say at the time of diagnosis, I didn't know anybody else, because in the village, I think those families that have sickle cell disease try to hide it as much as possible because of stigma. And this stigma comes out of lack of information. People misinterpret and say maybe that home there are demons there, someone must have killed somebody, don't marry from that home. So because of that, you are surrounded by people with sickle cell, but nobody talks about it. So even when you find information that now you have a child with sickle cell, you don't know who to go to ask anything.
'Cause we're differently abled, differently.
Let's take a short break. We'll be right back. Don't go too far.
'Cause we're differently abled, differently.
Foundation for Tomorrow, in conjunction with Mary Immaculate Health Center Bahati, held an event on the 19th of September to give food rations to the vulnerable families with children with disabilities.
Our focus mainly is to make sure that children with special needs, regardless of the condition, are taken care of. So we have rehabilitation programs, and then we also do a lot of awareness creation, and we are involved in advocacy as well. Those are key areas of focus, but we are also involved in economic empowerment for the youth with disability and also families of children with disabilities.
The organization, which deals with the rights of children with special needs by partnering with different medical facilities, held a virtual walk on 29th August 2020 to raise funds and create awareness about persons with disabilities, and the funds mobilized were used to purchase the food rations.
Today we have been giving out food rations to families, vulnerable families with children with special needs. This is in response to the call we made and the activity we held on 29th of August, which was the online charity walk. We call it virtual walk. This walk was meant to create awareness and raise 1 million Kenyan shillings, and then the money was to go towards food supplies to those families. So we were not able to raise the 1 million, unfortunately, but the little that we were able to raise is what we used to buy the food. We have already distributed some, and we continue to distribute, and we are also making another call because this problem is not going away any sooner. So we would like to get the support and continue supporting these vulnerable families during this difficult time of Corona.
Food is essential for human survival. Therefore, this act was very meaningful, especially during these difficult times of the COVID-19 pandemic.
How I wish that the government, through the Ministry of Agriculture, could put in place mechanisms that will guarantee food supply to families in this country. We talk about food security from time to time, but let me tell you, people in this country, particularly parents of children with special needs, who are not able to go out and work and get money and buy food, or go and spend hours on the farm, they have a very big challenge. And as you put it, really, food is essential. No food, no life. It is my wish that maybe in the future the foundation will try to find out what other ways can be put in place to ensure that parents or vulnerable families have access, guaranteed access to food supply.
Just as one day, a representative of Mary Immaculate Health Center applauded the foundation's generosity and urged everyone to follow suit.
This act about the food donation is positive based on the fact that we have so many people who are either unable to access the food as a basic need, and we have so many challenges in the societies and the families, and most of the people who are unable who maybe they have been retrenched or they are not working. It is on a rare case we've seen such, or this is the first NGO to approach us, and we have had people with the same needs who haven't been accessed. So this is a chance for those people living nearby, since the NGO is available and they are willing to work with us.
The parents were grateful for the donations they received.
Naweza kusema wamefanya kitendo yenye inaweza furahisha.
Nimeshukuru sana, hasa wakati huu kuna corona, maisha imekuwa ngumu sana. Kwa hivyo wametusaidia na tumeshukuru.
Mtu akubali vile mtoto ako. Hakuna kitendo inatendeka bila Mungu kujua.
Ability is not inability. Therefore, we should all push for an inclusive society and strive to help those in need in whichever way possible.
To call on fellow Kenyans that they should support charity. They should go out there. Let's we are generous people, I know, but let's try as much as possible to help people in the neighborhood. When you see a person in the neighborhood and this person does not have this and that, can we develop that spirit of giving? I was in my own way thinking that I should start a day, you call it a giving Saturday or something like that, so that all Kenyans remember one day to give. Maybe it will happen one day. But it's my wish that, my call to all Kenyans, to support charitable work, and especially the Foundation for Tomorrow. This is an organization which is moving very fast, and it is working in the communities. And we want to go up country, leave alone what is happening in the city like Nairobi. The situation in the rural areas is very, very dire. And that is how going to be our focus. I will welcome everybody, corporate organizations, individuals, and other NGOs to partner with us so that we move together to help our people. And you must all work together, because there's no way you will be happy and I'm not happy. I just want to quote Pope Francis when he said, life is good when you're happy, but much better when others are happy because of you.
'Cause we're differently abled, differently.
My definition for persons with disability is actually able differently. Yeah, it doesn't mean that when you have a disability you cannot do what other guys are doing. You can actually change a society in a different way. So that's why, in my opinion, or my definition for persons with disability is actually just able differently.
Can define disability as any condition that a person might be having that makes him or her disadvantageous over the rest of the world.
Disability, according to me, is a person who is not normal like other people, who is not born normal. Normal in quotes meaning that maybe they're not seeing, they don't have arms or legs, or they can't walk. Yeah, and they cannot do daily takings of how normal people do things.
Disability is somebody who has been maybe somebody who is a bit disadvantaged in terms of maybe physically or mentally, maybe in working or functioning in real life.
Personally, I don't think it's right for people of the society to quote them as disabled, because I believe that they are not disabled people, rather they are abled differently people. So I believe that whatever I can do, they also can do, or maybe they can do better than us. So I don't think the society should label them as unable to do certain things, and they should not be able to be segregated away from us. Yes.
I can say that these are the creatures, God's creation, and they should be treated as just other people. How you treat other person, this is how these people should be treated. So for them, being disabled doesn't mean that they can't do anything, but their disability help them even to think outside, anything else, or in fact help them to grow.
Actually, I don't think if it is right. It has been a challenge in our society. Some have defined them as persons with disabilities, others have defined them as disabled. But actually, I think the right definition, in my opinion, should actually be abled differently. Yes.
I don't think it's right, because anything a person can do who is not disabled, a disabled person can do the same job, depending on the environment. If it's an office, it depends on the type of job, but I don't think that the persons with disability should be treated as people who are disabled.
I don't think it's right. They're just normal human beings like us, like everyone else, we are the same person. We are basically the same person, just with a challenge. I'd call it a challenge, a minor inconvenience.
I'll just treat them normally because I live with a person living with disability personally. So I don't see any difference between me and her or between her and me, because whatever I can do, she can do. Whatever I cannot do, she can also do, maybe, or even better. So I don't treat people able differently, people any different from me.
I'll treat them as like any other person. I'll not stigmatize them or maybe distance myself from them. I'll just, in fact, I try so as much as possible. I move close to them so that I can learn from them.
It's basic knowledge that I wouldn't want to say you should treat them special because they are special. You should treat them like any other person, and that assistance, like that extra assistance would do, yes.
Cause we're differently abled, differently.
Let's take a look at the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disability.
Article 6 of the UN Convention states that state parties recognize that women and girls with disabilities are subject to multiple discrimination, and in this regard shall take measures to ensure the full and equal enjoyment by them of all human rights and fundamental freedoms.
On Disability Tip of the Day, we advise parents and caregivers of children with sickle cell to widely share information with the school, especially when the child is away from the parent or when they are attending the school, because this will give them attention to know the children, what they go through. We have come to the end of our show for today. It's my hope that we have learned a thing or two about sickle cell. Till next week, same time, I've been your host, Ruth Mweni. Bye-bye.